Grace and peace, family. I'm Dr. Brandon McCray, and welcome to another edition of Wisdom on Wednesday. Today, we'll be continuing our series entitled The Heart of a Worshipper, looking at King David bringing back and recovering the Ark of the Covenant, found in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verses 5 through 15. Last week, we began dissecting the text. Today, I'd like to continue. We're going to look at verse 7, and in the English Standard Version of the scripture, it reads like this. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God struck him down there because of his error, and he died there beside the ark. For your willful and prayerful consideration today, I'd like to lift three observations found in God's frustration with worship. Here in the text, three observations of God's frustration in worship. The first thing I'd like to highlight is there in verse 7, that word error. In the Hebrew, that word is shal. And interestingly enough, it's only used one time in the entire Old Testament. That's how grave this error was. Well, what was the error? What are the observations? The first is Uzzah's lack of knowledge. If you're taking notes, you'll find it on the bottom of the screen. Uzzah's lack of knowledge. He was not educated in what it was he was supposed to be doing. From all accounts, including Jocephus and several other theologians, Uzzah was a Levite. But what's interesting is, as a Levite, he did not educate himself in what he was to do to manage the glory, to manage the ark. His form of worship, he was not educated in. We many times fail to educate ourselves in what it is we say that we believe. If we are Christians, we must be fully enthralled in what it is we read, that is the Bible. We must be fully engrafted in our local assembly, that is the community of the church. And we must know what it is we believe. Many of us fail, even as Uzzah, with a lack of knowledge. In Numbers chapter 4, we see what it was that the Levites were supposed to do. Specifically, it was the tribe of Kohath that was supposed to be carrying or bearing the ark. And if Uzzah was truly a astute Levite, he would have known. So he had, number one, a lack of knowledge. Number two, he had a lack of reverence. Uzzah became familiar with the glory. As a matter of fact, Uzzah was a son of Amminadab, whom had recovered the ark, or the ark was at their house when it was brought back from the Philistines. So he had been in the proximity of the ark so long that he had forgotten to reverence what it was that was in his house. How many of us am I speaking to that have become so familiar with the presence of God in our local assembly, familiar with the man and woman of God, familiar with the glory of God? Many of us as African American believers are used to having what we would call ridiculous church. When the Spirit of God comes in and shakes the room, the gifts are manifested. But we, in many cases, have become so familiar with that we have, as Uzzah had, a lack of reverence. Third and finally, not only do we see a lack of knowledge in Uzzah, not only do we see a lack of reverence, but lastly, we see a lack of faith. Uzzah's name means strength. When you look at the etymology of his name in Hebrew, it literally means strength. And the error that Uzzah made is the error that many of us make. Uzzah relied on his own strength instead of relying there on the strength of God. If God could keep the tablets intact in the ark, if God can keep the budded rod of Aaron in the ark, if God could keep the manna in the ark without spoiling, then surely God can save himself from the stumbling of an ark. And there are many of you that are under the sound of my voice that find yourself in the position of Uzzah, wanting to apply your own strength to the situation, where God is coming today to remind you that he's got it, regardless of what you may go through that may shake the ark, or that may shake and the oxen stumble in your life. Regardless of the situations that you find yourselves in, you've got to not rely on your own strength, but rely on the strength of God. Allow me to leave you with these thoughts. The actions we take for God, as I many times say, are directly connected to the faith that we have in God. Take a note. Solid faith is the foundation of sincere worship. This has been your boy Brandon McCray, aka BmacMusik. Do three things for me: like, share, and comment on this post. We want to make something God go viral. And until next time, I want to see your face in the same space for Wisdom on Wednesday. Listen, holla at your boy.